Kong's banned away. That's a must-do. We have things like the Lucian open for a first pick of top esports. Want to set up JackeyLove.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Lucian or Viego coming into this one. This being the Tian pick, I think it makes a lot of sense for them, especially considering the top esports are willing to play the Draven. Also, the Kalista was another thing that was open. If you do take, let's say, the Lucianami, right? We've seen the Kalista Renata go head-to-head against that pretty consistently, but IG don't even care that can be counterpicked. They're just setting up to blind this spot lane so far. Also curious to see where Xun will go in terms of the jungle, considering he's had 3 jungle bans levied against him. Yeah. IG abandoned jungle themselves. Wayward has picked up the Viego. I mean, Shun's really going to be going down in his pool.
Isn't it great, though? Like, he had a great Kindred game, but there's the Nidalee that's still always leveraged against him. It feels like there's a few junglers in the league that deserve that respect. So, Shun definitely sitting high and mighty, and your question of where he'll go in the jungle pool hopefully will be answered in the next rotation. But for now, Wink versus JackeyLove, both Draven players, Lyric. And we saw in the last series, it was leveraged by Wink a couple of times, but this time it looks like JackeyLove will be playing safe back to one of his old favorites.
Yeah, JackeyLove gonna disappoint us a little bit and not bring out that pristine Draven. There is. Maybe he's having flashbacks from the first series against JDG where he just died over and over and over again. But like you said, we'll have more like survivability, has self-peel coming in with his E, and then just setting up for a very strong 2v2, considering you're putting it alongside that Karma. And here we go, Lillia coming in. Actually, the first Lillia game of this split, which is a little bit surprising. This was one of the picks that I heard kind of rearing its head in scrims early on in the split. It's something where we do have more diversity able to come on soul lanes. You can bring out AD soul laners like we've seen not only here, but across the world. It's also a pick that does extremely well into the Wukong, so obviously not that matchup now, but that's just another reason why I would have expected it to be able to come through in the meta, and IG now just going to pull this one out.
Never a dull moment with Shun at his jungle champion pool, just when you thought you banned off the core carries. He pulls out something left wing. So we get the AP jungler, but now it is about the solo laners. And when we were talking about Yuekai versus Knight, Lyric, we've started looking towards Knight bans. The Ahri that was in his highlight clips before. Another solo ban here with the Fiora top against Zika.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense, right? Banning out some of those strong AD soul laners where you can bring that mixed damage to the top side and really enable this Lillia to full force. Though IG mostly setting up to play these big team fights, right? Having, you know, big strong ultimates like the Kalistas, having, you know, hopefully Shun being able to set up for a 5-man sleep. So I'm curious to see where TS go with this. We know that IG can still play things like the set mid, so that's something I think you always have to be a bit wary of as TS, as another champion that could just set up for what their draft so far wants to do so well.
I'm just really curious, though, about this last ban coming here from Top Esports. If we're looking team fight for IG, if we're looking for what they're banning against, right now with the GP gone away, remember that Zika has already played things like the Jax here, Lyric. What else have we got out of him? We've got the Riven, we've got the Gnar. The Fiora already banned away. The Gwen in there as well, which is also banned. So a lot of top laners taken off the board. Now to see if Zika shows his hand or once again gets that counter pick with another team fighter to add by Yuekai.
Yeah, IG definitely want more lockdown, right? Considering they're going up against Poke and that they have a lot of damage, like close range damage that they want to be able to layer down. I was going to say you either go a tank in topside, so again, the Ornn, the Sign, we've already seen those flashed, or you go back towards the set in the mid lane. With the bans coming out in top, I think the Camille ban was especially good because it puts Zika on a carry, but also gives him the lockdown and forces him to play this, you know, weak side frontline role, which is not something we know Zika for. Let's remember that this was the Tryndamere one trick in Spring Split.
Yeah, a player that likes to play carries. Again, already seen Riven, Gnar. We've got Jax, Fiora, like the list goes on. He's played a unique champion every single game, and this game won't be an exception. Do we just get a wet noodle fight in the top lane? No, I believe the answer is going to be yes here. With Wayward going into the Sejuani. I mean, Ornn versus Sejuani. Lyric, what an exciting top lane matchup. How fresh.
Hey, when we had Zoom bringing out the Sejuani, we got a lot of jungle attention put up towards that top side. So wouldn't be surprised to see the same, at least early on, right? Having value out of the Viego, helping you stack up that passive and be able to get that CC down. And then Knight just going to link everything together. Having another champion that can deal damage from a distance, but also have some proactive tools at that level 6 mark and really enable this spot lane to do what they do so well, which is poking you out, chunking down those turret plates, and getting ahead. Now, to see where IG are going. So far, hovering top laners. I don't know if that's their play coming in against this Taliyah. But
it is.
Oh, wow.
So, Kayle mid or Ornn mid is what you have to quickly elaborate on.
I have to elaborate on what's going on here?
Yeah, you do. It's really IG style, is it? Like, it doesn't matter that the players have changed. You could be looking at someone like, Rookie in the Shire from the past and just seeing these strange champions come through. It still has that buzz to it, and with Yuekai looking at the Ornn right now, IG have again taken another left turn. And Lyric, you're talking about team fighting. This is still a great team fighting comp.
This is absolutely crazy. So this is, I'd say, maybe the better setup of the two, because Kayle will do well into the Sejuani, right? You'll get a free farming lane. You're up against a tank. It's like, sure, the Ornn will be bullied. You will just be farming under your turret, but it's like, hey, at least you're a tank. You get some resistances. You are just chilling. But my God, are IG coming out of left field. They've doubled down on the 5v5s. They've brought themselves some engage with Yuekai on this Ornn pick. And I love just how far Yuekai is going to embrace his role. Sure. That was our story coming into this, right? Like, okay, Yuekai's taking a backseat, the set, the Galio, all about enabling jungler. And he has tripled down, my dude. And now time to see what this draft can do, because it could quickly go the reverse of where Taliyah constantly pushes you in mid, Knights roaming all around the map, and this could just snowball out of control for the side of TES.
I feel like Yuekai is just getting into a path of playing really Jack champions, like Galio and Absolute Monsters, Set, a guy that works out 24/7. Ornn literally invented the barbell. So
you're saying he's projecting. He's projecting what he wants for himself in the champions he's playing.
Or maybe he's modest and this is his way of sharing it with us without being, I guess the opposite of humble. So I like it
Not
here.
being that guy.
Yeah, that's right. No one wants that guy. For Yuekai, he was our highlight coming through. If you missed out on the last series against FPX, Invictus Gaming looked great and filled me with a lot of hope. I cast that last series and I was so excited to see IG again, and it's my pleasure to see them back on the Rift, and especially against Top Esports, when Top Esports also 1-1, but Lyric, they were top 4 in spring. They've got a huge lineup, so this will be a big matchup for IG if they can state it, especially with this first game draft.
Yeah, for IG, again, I think it's going to be a little bit interesting to see where Xun goes with his aggression. I wouldn't expect too many opportunities to be presented in top or mid early on. I feel like bot lane might be your only avenue, considering that JackeyLove and Mark, again, should be looking to harass the lane, should be looking to get push, and then potentially you can come in from behind and find a gank there for Xun. Okay. I think top esports, though, are the ones who have a lot more options. Being able to get that priority down in bot, having the priority in mid, and even though we said the Kayle will do fine up in top side, I mean, it goes the same way for Sejuani, right? Kayle not ranged early on. You will just be able to farm up. At level 6, you have CC to set up for Tian. So I think top esports definitely have more early game options, but we're looking at Knight for when he can start roaming, considering he will be able to, again, has the range into melee matchup in mid lane.
So talking early game options, that's good. I'll be looking for Knight's level 6 and what Tian can get done. But is it fair to just say straight out that for IG, as we get a trade in the bottom lane with Ignite going down, that's a cleanse from JackeyLove, by the way. A Rend that returns through, and Mark, with his Mantra Q, gets a bit of damage back on. JackeyLove with a Q through the minions as well. That'll do it too. I was going to ask you, Lyric, late game does feel like we have it all. We have a Kayle. Easy to say that IG should have the brunt of the 5v5.
I think IG will definitely come out with like more reliable damage later on, considering that they have the Kayle. Okay. They also, you have the Lillia. Renata, of course, extremely strong late game with the setup of your ultimate. You're going to have the ornaments. But for top esports, the thing they have going for their comp is the formation. At the very least, the only real engage you have to worry about, right, is the big Ornn ultimate coming out later, which is pretty good against long-range champions since your ult range is so massive. But still, if top esports can dodge out on that one, it's going to be rough for IG to find a way into the fight. So IG will have more damage, but it's about if they can get the engage from Yuekai to be able to get on their targets.
All right, be looking at that formation as well then. A Tian pathing towards bottom side. Look at Xun on the other end. Both towards this bottom lane, especially with JackeyLove and Mark having the shove right now. And Xun should be the one who's getting towards this Gromp, as you see on your screen. Scuttle should be fought over, and I'm looking towards what happens in the bottom lane, because we did talk a lot about diving and champion kills coming through, even despite the meta.
Yeah, and for the side of TS, I think things like dives can be quite hard. Okay. I mean, in the first few levels, right, like, you don't have too much survivability on the side of IG, but especially with Xun hovering around this way. Now you have TP on both your solo laners, it's almost impossible. Then post 6, it's even harder. But here, I like what top esports are doing. You have 3 lanes with prio. Again, it is harder to set up dives. It is harder to look for action in lanes. So I believe playing out through jungle is something we should be seeing more of on patch 12.10.
As Tian gets the blue buff and walks away, so For top esports, that pressure utilized quite nicely, and a bit of a CS lead for Tian in the jungle as well. As he transitions to the top side, it will be double scuttle for top esports, and where they're the composition who can be so proactive in the early game with Knight on this Taliyah mid. Really looking forward to the next 4 or 5 minutes here, Lyric, with already a bit of a lead brewing.
Yeah, and now for TS, I mean, it looks like they were angling to try and go contest the topside Scuttle Crab. Tian waiting in the area, waiting for Knight to come off his reset, but sadly not going to be able to go for that. I'm curious to see what Tian will do now, because Wayward was able to get the wave into turret, so theoretically he can force a bounce back and you can try and find a gank. But no, keeping up with the heavy trading. Really nice stuff coming out from Wayward.
Yeah, nice early damage coming through. It's a Glasc Sejuani in that top lane too, so trading's great as what you expect and what you told me about this Ornn in the mid lane continues to be true. Knight with the full HP bar and Yuekai at half. So he's just taking this range volley over and over and over again. And kind of excited to see what his level 6 brings as well. So, you know, Lyric, it's been a while. However, I'm not even going to ask the question I was going to ask because Yuekai has to run for his life. Knight continues to be very slappy in the middle lane. But Yuekai has TP, so it won't be the end of the world.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah, that's a mistake. That's a flash forward from Wink. Hang on. First blood. Mark just ran into the brush and the top esports support kind of threw that one away.
Yeah, I wonder if Mark was maybe looking for them and then like they were looking for a recall window or something and just trying to stop them, keep them in lane even longer, but giving an advantage completely over to the side of IG's bot lane. Tian even in the area not able to do anything because, I mean, yeah, it was just pretty egregious coming out from Mark, or nice cheese coming out from the side of IG. They catch him out, face checking that brush.
A quick little replay look because, yeah, you said Mark was trying to stop the back here. They moved just out of the cusp of vision.
Yeah, ooh, sees it. Oh, it was just a second too late coming out. I mean, again, like clever from IG to do the wraparound into the brush to find the handshake coming out from XinLiu. And now, I mean, for TS, going to try and find advantage mid.
Want a bit of revenge. Searing Charge gets him out. The flash has to be burned as the Bellows Breath was already used. So Yuekai down a summoner here, but remember it is this unsealed spellbook Ornn. And in front of Dragon as well, he has the ulti while everyone just decides it's time to group up in the bottom side of the map anyway.
Yeah, IG now trying to establish some vision control for themselves, considering that they did move their members mid to try and answer on that play. And try and catch out Tian.
Well, Tian is not going to die for now. Yuekai, remember that ult is coming through. He's got an Ignite in his back pocket as well. And in front of Dragon, everyone grouping up. Lyric, what does this look like right now? Because there's no teleport available on the top side. It would be a pure 4v4. I don't even have to ask you because, look, top esports aren't contesting.
Yeah, and this is what it comes down to in terms of being on the objective first with the way the comps work, right? Because top esports don't have a great way of just forcing their way into River. You don't have any, like, tanky frontline member. You'd be walking into Yuekai, who does have his Ornn ult available, and it just feels like IG would have much too easy of a setup considering that they were able to get that River control first. So now for TS, they're trying to pivot to the opposite side of the map. Maybe Tian can try and set up Ornn and invade here, considering that Knight will have push in mid, and try and bully out Shun on the receiving end.
He's got his ult as well, so with that Weaver's Wall up and available, he gets there in an instant, but do note that Yuekai's E, the Searing Charge, can break a hole in the wall. Lyric, I'm starting to think maybe the orb was on purpose as we're looking at bottom again. Mark just died to this Kalista as Wink sends all spears into the back of that Karma. And once again, the 2v2 flourishing for IG without any jungle attention.
Yeah, they're consistently able to find their way onto Mark. Again, we're not really seeing too much of how it's happening until after the fact, but now IG going to look to set up a dive.
And we talked about dives, we talked about the bloodiness. It finally begins. Call the Forge God layers down, and Mark, watch out, but it's too late. JackeyLove sent into the sky, and Invictus Gaming, they bring it home for 3 kills in the first 8 minutes.
Yeah, good by IG. Didn't even have to be much of a dive, considering they kill Mark first. He's not even under turret, and then easily able to follow it up. Wink now going to get a bunch of plates. For top esports to respond, they are pushing it mid. It looks like Knight did get a plate there, and we can see now Tian counter jungling on the top side. He is going to start up the Rift Herald. So top esports having a bit of a response, but IG with the beautiful play. And again, when we come into the replay, their bot lane's already done their job. You go for heavy trading to chunk them out low. And then with Mark running so far away, again, it's not even much of a dive. You take him down, then 4v1.
Oh, but meanwhile, we come on back, and Shun's in a bit of trouble. He's going to take himself the bailout, but no reset for the kill. JackeyLove finally on the board as IG's bottom lane. Deep, but not deep enough to die. So, bit of a trade as it looks like IG came back from the replay and decided to go deep.
And that's great for top esports, considering that IG had a man advantage on that side of the map.
Yep.
Yuekai was in mid, which is why it did just end up being a 3v3 with Knight moving over with the top esports bottom lane. But yeah, just overextension coming out from IG, not on the same page as your mid laner who was trying to catch a wave and not fall too far behind. Right now, only sitting about 10 CS, which, considering how impactful his roam down to bot lane was, for Yuekai, that is completely fine.
And it feels like the perfect time to bring up as we look at the replay. I am curious about how this happened. Wayward was spotted on the bottom. Sorry, that's not Wayward. That's the other mounted beast. Wait, Lillia is like Mr. Tomness from Narnia, right? She's all in one? Yeah. Yeah, she is. Okay, anyway. I'm glad we clarified that lyric. So that's what happened. I was going to bring up something a little bit more serious rather than myth. You know, I was sitting there, I was watching, you know, a bit of I will dominate today. Guilty, you know, guilty fan. And bit of a name drop. And I was sitting there drinking...
Bit of a clout chaser.
Well, you know me. And while I was sitting there watching LCS, we'll talk. You know, he's talking about proactivity, and I do truly feel after watching the other regions, LPL still has that kind of that very proactive edge in the early game. It doesn't feel like we've really changed metas that much, in the sense that it isn't as slow as other regions. I still feel like, you know, turret dives are happening, and we are still seeing the first 15 minutes be bloody.
We look at our series earlier today, right, where, I mean, the first game of the V5 series got up to like 45 kills or something along those lines. But yeah, I've been glancing across the other regions. LCK, LEC was obviously on yesterday as well, CS. And yeah, it feels like the first 15 to 20 minutes, definitely a lot slower than we see here from our teams, who, again, are still willing to go for those aggressive plays. Not too many kills in this game, but we have seen a lot of, let's say, like, posturing for like aggression. We obviously saw top esports go for the early invade into the enemy jungle. We've actually seen Tian invade the enemy jungle a few times. Sure. Just IG actually respecting when they know, hey, we have to catch our waves, like we can't have numbers here. But now with Dragon coming up, whoever gets control of this river will be so massive. The fact that JackeyLove isn't here means top esports are just going to be forced out. We might be put in another situation where IG can just pick themselves up a free Drake.
It'd be second Dragon, right? We start rolling the dice for that soul, but more importantly for Invictus Gaming, into that condition with an Ornn, with a Kayle. I know you talked about formation, but later on still a lot of possibilities for this team fighting team, as Herald does get a charge in the mid lane. And, you know, coming back to reality, top esports are even in gold. It's not like IG are in this perfect position. I remember that Knight's still been ahead in CS. JackeyLove was able to pick up a kill finally as well. Top esports do have quite a bit of power, Lyric, and in 15 seconds, you're right, IG might just have control of this objective, and top esports might have to find another way to get the ball rolling a little bit with their mobility.
Yeah, and it looks like they might try and set up a play towards the top side of the map. You know, except the fact that IG have already got set up on Drake. They have full control of vision and bot side and just set up a dive on this Kayle. But Zika, I mean, reading the play perfectly. It's like, hey, I know my team is getting Drake. We don't see the enemy anywhere on the bottom half of the map. They must be coming to my lane. It's going to lose a bit of CS over it. But the second Knight shows in mid, it means Zika is fine to walk back up to his wave.
As IG is just going to make the response play on the other side of the map. It is Dragon for the potential dive. Now, Zika came back in, Lyric, all that praise. We have to see how he survives, and survives he does. The Divine Judgment down, but Knight's coming through. Remember that Yuekai can bust the wall, but it won't even be needed. He wants to be the massive army in front of this Kayle, who flashes away. Zika survives, but now Yuekai must do the same. Slow down, dodging the side, big shove the flash forward from Tian. A big move is called. The Forge goal for the re-engage, and the health bar getting low. Shun wants in with the Dream Dust, and oh, that's a bit of an eep, actually, as Shun rolls in, wanting yet another. The Dream Dust not settling those. Knight goes golden. It's messy. It's close. The health bars make it so Knight stays a while. It's a top esports win, but they made him work for it.
And what shenanigans are going on our screen. So many missed abilities there. A lot of nice sidestepping to come through. TES still ultimately end up the victors. And Wayward on this Sejuani has taken 4 plates pretty much by himself. We're going to go straight into the replay. Already missing the first part of the dive, but TES now able to commit Knight up. Nice read by Yuekai to start roaming up here first. Tries to get in way, but actually blocks almost none of the rocks coming out from Knight, which allows Zika to get low. Makes it so Tian can just ult in to be able to get that kill. And now with Shun able to show up, I mean, I thought IG had potential to turn it around, throws down the ultimate, and again, does sidestep some rocks quite nicely, but since he isn't able to get on top of Knight before he goes golden, that's actually what ultimately leads the skirmish to go over to the side of top esports.
That hitbox from Wayward, I'm not sure how the flail hit, but it did, and It spelled the doom of Shun. But at the very least, you know, taking that risk. Top Esports going beyond the limit. That was under an inner turret before the 14-minute mark when that turret in the top side, the outer turret, is still standing. But Top Esports all the better for it. Lyric, it's a 2K gold lead. They might not have the Dragons, but now we can kind of see how Top Esports can operate when Knight has ulti and they start moving fast.
And it seems like IG trying to respond to what you're saying about Knight having his, like, soon to have his ultimate and having that pressure, moving their bottom lane up in preparation for Rift Herald to come through, sending Yuekai down to the bot lane because Yuekai is the one with TP, so they need to keep Zika close to the lane that has the objective. And TES kind of playing it a bit slower, keeping more members around mid first so they can get control of topside river like we're seeing now with all this vision. You can now send Wayward to bot, but IG are the ones with the TP advantage for the objective. As
Wayward's on top of Yuekai, we're going to have to look at this little tank battle that should have been. I remember that Yuekai took Ornn into the mid lane as Wayward continues chasing up. The Arctic Assault on a bit of a cooldown, but the flail hits once again. And look at this, Wayward actually doing a lot of damage against his tank brethren as they flash it out and drop up the emotes. It's good to see Wayward back in action with his T button, which I can only assume is where he puts his emotes.
Yeah.
Like a normal person. T.
A normal person's T button?
What do you put it on?
I have it on one of my mouse buttons.
Well,
you need to have emotes on lock at all points in time. And maybe Wayward does have it on T, and that's why he didn't emote at all in his first series.
True.
But I do want to highlight, I'm actually really surprised that we saw IG pivot to giving up Herald and playing towards the bottom half of the map. When, again, you look at Wayward, no TP, Yuekai is the one with it. They could have overloaded the top side of the map and just tried to force a 5v4 on top side. Instead, having the read that we're not strong enough, we just want to give it up, cross map, go to the opposite side. But you've now given the top lane turret over to the side of TES. They've also picked up the Herald. Mid lane turret is extremely low for the side of IG. So TES should have quite an easy time breaking down the rest of these outer turrets.
And I want to put a point up. You know, the only smart point I'll have at this cast is that Knight, as a Taliyah mid, when these side lanes, Lyric, are broken open, it feels so dangerous when Top Esports are able to get some of that deep vision, as we can see, towards the top side of the map. Knight can abuse that and start finding these picks when Zika, like he is now, starts pushing up heavily past his window of defense.
Yeah, and you know, this will be their opportunity to try to find those picks on sides. I also want to highlight, even like the build that Knight's gone, this is one of the builds you see in solo queue. We've seen once or twice in the LPL of like Leandri's. He knows he's going to be hitting a lot of frontline, especially the Ornn in this game, kind of trying to body block those shots, as well as having the Archangel, so going to get a lot of ability haste and a lot of mana out of it. And Taliyah now being a bit of a hyper scaling champion. Well, yeah, JackeyLove also always being hyper on whatever he's playing. But yeah, Knight going to be in position to be able to live up to the late game giant boulder damage that Taliyah is able to deliver.
And that bounty showing how big he is. Almost 2 items fully completed as Knight starts whopping away. Yuekai is a tank, folks, but now at half HP. Even less Souls Wayward comes in with the Glacial Prison, slows them all down. The AoE heaven here, but Renata's ulti slows them as well. XinLiu zoning and adding pressure with a good handshake, but now Winks by himself and gives Tian the range of movement. The bailout there, the reset, not in the nick of time. But the ultimate from Shun did so much return work for Invictus Gaming. Now in the backlines, Yuekai's running forward. JackeyLove is poking him down, building that range. XinLiu saving his mid lane, and Zika now jumps on in. This is what we expected between Top Esports and Invictus Gaming, as the Weaver's Wall is not followed by Knight, but we're still fighting. And this is why the Great Ninja War will be such a good series.
Exactly, it doesn't matter if IG have had a bunch of roster swaps from that rivalry existed before. This IG team still extremely competitive, as we see JackeyLove try and find the damage, but he isn't able to. Now both teams going to come back on the map. IG will be on the map first, and you expect to see them both setting up for this dragon.
Yeah, the dragon's coming. Okay, let's do it. Round number 2. I'm watching that ulti from Yuekai and Lyric. It does feel like we are ramping up and we are getting to that point where we're consistently going to have more and more fights. Top Esports got the lead yet again from this one as we look, because Wayward comes in and blows them to pieces.
Yeah, and he actually just baits out so many ultis, right? Both Zika and XinLiu wasting theirs. They're able to force the retreat, and then Tian able to find a beautiful way onto Wing.
Whoa.
But the return damage is so nice, especially because IG have a lot of AoE coming through. Shun with the huge damage, and then able to get off his stopwatch. And yeah, made it extremely close and competitive. But the longer the fight went on, you saw, hey, once especially the Ornn comes out and there's no Renata ultimate, you don't really have a way of locking them down, and Top Esports were able to just kite out the rest of the fight.
And now look at what the response is. You can see that there's 2 items onto JackeyLove. The mana immune will be fully stacked. Knight has his Mirror mana now there as well. Excuse me, Archangel Staff. Seraph's Embrace. We got there. So we have 2 items strong on Knight, on JackeyLove. Wayward is becoming kind of like the Fujitsu brand of fridge that you buy when you get away from the bar fridge. You know, Lyric, it has the freezer on the bottom, fridge on top, because it's how normal people buy fridges and freezers in one. And it has all that extra storage room that you're starting to think, okay, we can really work with this.
Have you ever seen those fridges that are like, you open it and it is just the fridge, but like the freezer is like a back door at the back of your fridge?
No.
Those are crazy. Oh, they're like secret doors. You can hide anything in those things.
Wow, we should get sponsored by a fridge. I tell you what, we'd make
no,
bank.
you should. I have no idea why you bring up fridges so consistently.
Honestly, when you have a clean fridge and when you have a fridge stocked with like fresh ingredients, guys, I'm not talking about pizzas and garbage, okay? Get fit, get healthy. I will actually make a gamer's book, a cookbook one day, Lyric. That is definitely on the agenda for League of Legends players. However, at this point, you know, I love a clean fridge, and when you live out of home and when you start stockpiling your fridge with fresh meat and groceries, you get really excited. That's why it's integrated into Cast, because I see that Wayward is 2.5 items strong, and I'm like, man, that guy's got a lot going on.
Yeah, yes he does. He's going towards the AD build as well. I think almost all of us colors have hit on this, that like preferring the AP build over it, obviously just kind of giving you more to your kit, right? Like things like your W, not just completely falling off. Even I believe it is your E damage. Yep. The active also scales off of AP as compared to just the passive, which scales off of both. But I feel like he's going to try and enable Shun to be able to do as much damage as he can, dissuade the enemy team from being able to build out, you know, any MR to come through. And then, I mean, right, he'll still be attacking extremely fast, able to try to whittle down the front line that Top Esports have. So interesting to see that come out from IG. Speaking of items, we're starting to have the ornaments come out, so that's scaling all coming through. And IG kind of just fine to wait out for the next dragon. Top Esports, though, again, they have like strong late game damage as well coming out from Taliyah and Ezreal. It's just about if they get caught by the engage. So vision and setups around objective are going to be the most pivotal things going forward.
Again, I'm going to rinse and repeat what you said at the start of the game. Formation for Top Esports makes it very manageable to verse IG. For the audience members out there, you see Kayle, you see Ornn, and you think, okay, there's an infinite late game for IG, or rather an impassable one. But you're right, great late game damage. We have Ezreal. We also have ourselves a Viego, who, once he gets space in a fight, can take over. So it is really exciting to see that this late game fight, this 5v5, has so many minimal, not minimal, but so many micro decisions that can change the face of it. So many individual plays, I should say.
I mean, right? I mean, you see, like we saw in the last fight, once the Renata ultimate and the Ornn ultimate are just gone, it's really hard for IG to be able to find a way to follow up, because as weak, you're not just going to throw XinLiu into the fight to try to get in range and start something off, right? So for IG, they have enough tools, but you cannot be wasteful with, you know, the limited number that you have. So that's why we're seeing Top Esports still the ones who are in control. They have the pushing lanes, and they're constantly trying to stay grouped up because they know Sejuani cannot match the split push of Zika in the side lane. That's also why they have Knight, the one being able to match him right now. And I like it by Zika not overextending, not setting him up for any ganks when he knows the Top Esports have full control over that bot side jungle.
And when that vision is completely empty by IG, you see one ward in mid, you see one on the Baron pit. But Top Esports have control everywhere else. The river lit up blue. And that's not just the water speaking as well. A couple of control wards up there. And you notice that Wayward now starting to push in the top side. Zika, as you said, Lyric, playing it very safe here, especially with Knight MIA. And for IG, just hoping this Kayle gets closer towards level 16, stays exalted, has that AD item you're also briefly touching on, and that Zika can be a bit of a menace and a massive threat to be concerned about from Top Esports' perspective.
Yeah, he will give them a decent way of being able to shred Wayward in the front line, because you look at him now, right? Having his Mythic, having his Fimbulwinter as well, making his way towards another item will be so hard to shred down. And TS continually trying to find these fights. And I like how liberally, like, Wayward's playing. He's consistently far forward because he knows he has the abilities to be able to get out. Has Mantra E as well to escape. We have the Shirelias now picked up for Mark. So if he can do what he did before, where it's like, hey, I throw out my ultimate and look for a pick, and you waste some of your crucial abilities, that feels like it'll make all the difference for TS, who might punish Yuekai.
Just so mobile. Zika is
Zika, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We've got a couple of new IG members for this year, and you notice that Zika played time there in the middle brush, backs away, but at the very least for top esports, that control netting them yet another dragon. It is a Cloud Soul, but look, even if we get towards Soul, that's at least 2 dragons time for either of these teams, Lyric. It's 3K gold lead for top esports in this mid-game at 24 minutes, and things have become a little bit slower with, I guess, these teams taking a step back and not really giving an edge with how close it's been.
Yeah, the reason we've ended up in this position is because top esports are the team who have control, but again, top esports don't really have a way of how they want to force on you. They want to push you into your turret, throw out the mystic shots, throw out some mantra Qs coming out from Mark, whittle you down, and then find the fight.
Or
but
maybe just,
they might find a pick right now.
Yeah, they were pretty edgy here with Yuekai going in, and he's actually taken no damage as well. They're onto Tian in the back line, but look, that's just the jungler as a 2-man knockup. Will it mean anything? IG are heavily affected with their health bars as Yuekai has absorbed every single piece of damage, but the ulti's great from Zika. Keeps his mid laner alive as Shun can't kite it out. The poke, the snipe, the absolute calamity that top esports have now inflicted.
Yeah, and we saw top esports actually taking a different approach. Ignore side lanes and just force 5 members in mid to force numbers advantage. Knight's still waiting to find a pick.
I think IG want to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks at this point. I mean, there's 5 members alive, all in front of the Baron. IG aren't getting anywhere near the thing, and even though it's been a bit back and forth, it's been close, it's been at that 3K gold mark, that stops now with top esports in game 1 getting the Baron, managing the 5K themselves, and just showing how in control they've been in the last 5 to 10 minutes.
And it just comes from an understanding of top esports, knowing where IG are strong, avoiding that Kayle on the bottom side, because we can see here, he's split pushing, but Wayward's already making his way over. Top esports trying to force his play while they have numbers. IG very aggressively fighting for vision against them as well. Seems like they don't expect it. Knight, a little bit awkward, ends up on the wrong side of his wall. And a lot of top esports initial abilities end up missing out, but Knight able to get good amounts of damage onto the Renata. Yeah. And then we said, as Wink, you do not want to throw the Renata back in, but he doesn't agree with that. That is exactly what he does. Sends XinLiu to his doom, and then just the poke able to come out from JackeyLove and Mark to be able to finish off Xin at the end of the fight.
There's something else we didn't talk about as well that was kind of apparent in that last fight, Lyric. JackeyLove and Knight, range a bit of a factor here as well. When you have a Kalista AD carry and, you know, Kayle is the one who you're kind of relying on. Lyric, he's still not 16, and it feels like JackeyLove and Knight are just sniping out IG and getting the health bars before they can even get the engage.
Well, that's why we said the formation's what matters, right? Because again, I think objectively, IG do have like a tankier team. They do have some more damage that could come out if we were at an even state at like 35 minutes. But the fact that top esports have that range advantage, the fact that it's so hard for IG to be able to lock them down is why they've been able to just manhandle this advantage forward. Now able to force down another turret in the bot lane. Looking rough for IG is... Man, this game is just a compilation of Wayward missing these ults.
It is. But look, it's Sejuani at this point of the game, level 16. That ult doesn't have much of a cooldown, so it'll be coming up back shortly. And I'm going to ask you, Lyric, for IG and their base defense here against the Baron buff as the Weaver's Wall tries to zone out. What do you do as Invictus Gaming to slow this pace, to make this somewhat of a winnable fight to stay in game 1?
Honestly, you have to do what you said they were trying to do before. You have to throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks. Call of the Forge God goes in. Well, they're not going to do that.
He's stuck. I guess, yeah, he took it quite literally here as Weak now free firing, but this is a Kalista into a Sejuani. JackeyLove, here's the target as Rain comes through. The bailout giving attack speed. Hang on, IG. They fumbled losing Zika early on, but Wink almost getting a second one here. Invictus Gaming, it turns back around. Never mind me getting excited as Shun is running for his life, but he won't have to run far. This is a bailout stolen and Knight's kill incoming. The seismic jump just out of range, but all they need to do is make sure IG stay out of the base while top esports go in to break it fair.
Yeah, gonna get an inhibitor. They honestly should be able to spear both inhibitors off of this play. You still have a bit of death timers on the other members. I don't expect Top Esports to look for the end, but Top Esports have been known to do crazier things. Dragon will be up in 35 seconds, so reset's gonna come out from them. Start making your way into that bot side river, get some vision control down. You could pick that Dragon up and then just start playing around that top inhibitor. And you just have so much pressure coming out with the super minions in 2 lanes now. It feels almost impossible for IG to be able to find an avenue back.
As we look at this replay again, I mean, this started with, imagine if the fight didn't start with Zika having to burn the ulti and almost dying.
When we said throw everything at the wall, that was definitely not how we meant it. If you can open up with Call the Forge God like Yuekai had to do there, and then again, kind of lay your members in, just throw shit and try and, you know, hit multiple members, land a 5-man ultimate, right? You need to get in close range. That's why this fight went so well, because Top Esports stay in range to dish out this damage, because it already found some kills. IG able to find some in return, but still not enough with the fact that the 5-0-6 Taliyah, who now has a Rabadons, was still in that fight.
Yeah, Knight's been so consistent this game. Again, we talk about the play in the top side that did so much. XinLiu, that's a flash ulti, but it only gets Wayward. And the boar starts beating down on some smaller animals. Top Esports didn't even get hurt by that, and IG again still throwing whatever they could find.
You know, I just want to see Knight's Q on worked ground against a full HP target now. I feel like against someone like Wink, it must do a sizable chunk of his health bar, and it would be pretty cool to see the burst come out, equivalent to like quirky bursts that we had in spring. Seeing people just get chunked out of nowhere.
Does Yuekai know he can either walk? I wonder at the very least. Not going to be broken anyway. Maybe he doesn't want to because IG know how far behind they are, but Ghost Prison comes through. We're going to do it all again. Ulti from Zika launched onto Yuekai, and the Call the Forge God is onto Wayward mainly. Invictus Gaming, they're just trying to defend. They're just trying to find that miracle fight. The Top Esports aren't letting them, as Wayward is unkillable. And those poke targets, Knight in JackeyLove, are firing away relentlessly.
And now you're just going to have so many supers coming out with all 3 inhibitors broken down. Top Esports can just sit in this space and wait for the cavalry to come. And now for IG, I mean, heck, you're missing 3 ultimates. XinLiu's will be up soon to try to dissuade anything. But again, this game feels done and dusted. 9,000 gold lead for the side of TES. And the Great Ninja War remade off to a bit of a banger.
Now, I remember last time, Top Esports were the Akatsuki. For any Naruto fans out there, you're probably not happy right now as launched again is XinLiu, but to his death, the bailout won't save him. That's the second time Wink's done that, and there'll be hell to pay as the Glacial Prison at least gets the slow, while Zika is hitting his prime, but it might just be way too late. Shun's here by himself, and that literally has already put everyone into a lullaby. Knight with the Weaver's Wall follows it through, and he's got a kill to take. Shun golden, but I ain't saying anything about the time he's got because it's back to 0. Knight takes that one, and it is just a slow burn for Top Esports to get their kills up while this game eventually ends.
Yeah, I mean, right, with Zika being level 17, they're able to clear out these waves decently fast, so they're going to back off. But now for TS, they're finally going to pick up the Baron since that did just spawn. I'm curious to see if they'll move down towards the Dragon as well. You can maybe look for resets first and then come out of base and look for that one. And then it should be a very easy push to try to land the poke, whittle down these turrets, and finally end the game for the side of TES. We're going to get a replay of something
XinLiu getting
coming
thrown
on
in.
through. Oh, yeah. We've seen this a few times now. And again, very explicitly stated that this is not how this should work against what Top Esports have pulled out. And, you know, that's all she wrote. I would
say at this point in the game, maybe rebind to Yuekai. You know, if the game goes on. Feels like the Ornn are kind of made for being thrown in, especially with how big he is. The biggest on Invictus Gaming, but never mind me. It doesn't matter because Top Esports are dismantling IG. It's an 11k gold lead. There, the Dragon was taken, Lyric, at 32 minutes. You kind of expect this one to come to its end. As Top Esports finally, with all waves pushing towards the north, look to end.
Yeah, and I mean, even having these waves kind of stacked up now because of that wall preventing them from being able to enter one at a time. And now for TS, right, it's just simple. Just layer down this poke, let the minions do their job. But IG now, I mean, Yuekai is just so incredibly tanky.
Get the Searing Charge, though, and that's a big one. The side jump puts him back at half HP. Divine Judgment there as the ultimate doesn't connect from XinLiu, but IG still going forward. But is it enough, guys? You know the answer's going to be no. Tian will find a reset, find the kill, and now charges up to be the winged machine. He has the range and he's got the power to do so. But for Top Esports, this game was close at one point until it wasn't even there. Invictus Gaming gets slaughtered, and in 33 minutes, Top Esports again showing us why they were top 4 in the spring split.
Yeah, Top Esports honestly coming out, I think, with one of their better games so far. Even in their last series against WE, where they did have that pretty decisive Game 2 stomp, I felt like watching this game, it just looked like Top Esports understood their composition and the enemy composition so well. I really like the Ezreal Karma coming out as an answer to the Kalista and Renata. Two champions who want you to be in close range with them, right? Renata excelling against champions who need to come in, and then Kalista being a champion who herself wants to go in, but you're picking two champions who outrange the Kalista and never need to go into the Renata. So overall, I think some nice drafting coming out from TES. They had pushing lanes across the board. They had Knight who was able to consistently roam. And yeah, they just tethered in those team fights quite perfectly. And IG were almost never able to be able to get on top of a key target of Top Esports.
And look, we saw a couple of early game plays. It was a 3-0 start from IG. Wink and XinLiu in the 2v2 got first blood, and then we, got that double kill. I'm not sure if it was the top side. I'm not sure if it was the dive. My brain deceives me. But Yuekai...
It was the dive. It was the dive.
Was the dive. Good to hear. But at the very least, and it was in the bottom lane. Yuekai with that supporting role did come through in the early game, but we never got to see it accelerate. We never got to see, Shun really double down. It went stagnant for quite a while. Gold was even. And then Top Esports just finding these small advantages with Knight on this Taliyah, as you mentioned, that kind of took it away from there. So a decisive game, but yeah, you're right. A clean one where Top Esports obviously had a very good read on what their comp could do, moving as the time went on.
Yeah, I do got to give credit to IG, though. I love the fun that these guys are willing to come out with in terms of their drafts. And again, the consistency, right? Things like the Set Diana, things like the Galio Kindred, now things like Ornn plus Lillia. They are really keeping it on theme with how they play the game. I think a little bit of an issue for IG this game was the top lane, because we pretty much saw Zika lose out by himself, right?
Yep.
A lot of those plates, Wayward got solo, just completely ignoring the damage that Zika was putting on through. And then once the dive top lane finally was able to come through, it's like, well, there's only one plate left on this turret. And that really started to be a problem for the side of IG. As then TES just stayed stacked as a 5-man almost the whole game, ignoring sides for a lot of it and forcing numbers advantage.
I just love on this graphic that we have ourselves a Sejuani who did more damage than Tian. Tian in that game, farming it away, still being a part of the team. But Wayward, we saw the trading against Yuekai, wasn't really scared at any point in that game. And it's nice to see when, the Wayward, who can have these really big carry performances, but can also sit on a Sejuani and have, I guess, somewhat of a